Hi everyone! Welcome to Coffee with Lauren. I'm Lauren. My coffee is gone. I drank it. Today's video is actually going to be a little more off the cuff because a really lovely patron on my Patreon page asked me to talk about my journey to paganism and how I found my own spiritual path and how I came to tarot and all of those things. So this might be a little rambly, and it has nothing to do with writing, but it is important if you are a patron and you're looking at some of the things that I offer. It's also just important to me as a human being. So if you're interested, stick around. Yeah, so my journey to paganism is a little, I think everybody's journey to a different spiritual path is different, and feels a little off kilter at times. But I was raised Catholic. I converted when I was a child. I think I converted when I was like 9 or 10 with my mom. I actually really enjoyed being Catholic. Cue jokes here. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being Catholic. I enjoyed the ritual of it, which now looking at my life, not at all surprised. I just noticed a few things that I was like, that doesn't quite feel truthful for me, or it doesn't feel right. But I never once felt alienated. I never felt uncomfortable. The Catholic Church gave me a lot in terms of like a safe space to truly like just meditate. Like I feel like I would go into church and I would just kind of sit there and I wasn't really paying attention to what the quote unquote sermons were supposed to be. I was mostly just meditating and looking at the imagery and connecting with Mary mostly. Again, not a huge surprise when you see where I'm at now. But I think I was around 14. Yeah, I think I was around 14 or 15. And I was coming to terms with some of my own innate gifts that the Catholic Church really didn't have answers for. Specifically communicating with spirit and being empathic and that kind of thing. So I had a lot of experiences that I then sought kind of textbook help for from the people that I had been told my whole life, like these are the people that you go to with spiritual questions. And they didn't have any answers for me. And not only did they not have answers, but they kind of were like, yeah, we don't know what to tell you, and also you should probably stop doing what you're doing. And when I tried to stop communicating with spirit, or even just like leaning into it, not doing anything scary, just anytime I tried to shut it out completely, I felt so awful. It really did kill a part of my soul. It was very wounding to try to keep myself in such a tight box with a lock. So for myself, I spent years ignoring this thing that I could do. And then finally one day I just was like, I can't do this anymore. And it actually wasn't a Catholic church, it was an Episcopalian church that we went to for a while. And the fellowship hall rec room felt very haunted to me. Very filled with spirit, very heavy and oppressive. And it was hard for me because I also worked at that church nursery. And so I had to be in that room a lot. So it was very oppressive for me, and it was very awful. And one day I basically just like, my 15-year-old self was like, I got to do something. So, what had also started happening was that other children were starting to experience things that couldn't be explained. So like they felt like they were being touched, and there was nobody there. They would see stuff. It was it started to escalate. So I did what any good Catholic person would do, and I went to the priest. And I told him, and I kind of, as I was unraveling the story about what was happening with the kids, I ended up basically word vomiting everything to him about what I could do and what my life was like and the things I experienced and how kind of dead inside I felt because I wasn't leaning into it. And so I asked him, like, I need answers. I need help. Please just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. But in that process of telling him, I've told this story before, but in the process of like unraveling this thread, this, tapestry of what I was explaining to him, the more I told him, the paler and paler he got. And it was really like, I remember like thinking back on that, I remember just like seeing a grown man, a grown middle-aged man, just lose the color in his face to the point that he looked kind of sickly. And then he was very quiet. And that's when I was like, please just tell me what to do. And he went, I don't have answers for you. And he sounded so heartbroken. He sounded so like, I mean, he was disappointed. I think, like we talked about it later, years later, but he felt like there was just nothing he could, like there was no book he could just hand me. There was no, the church, the Episcopalian and the Catholic Church don't teach how to handle gifts like mine. They teach how to suppress, and they teach how to basically just like ignore and like just leave it alone. I'm like, okay, well, I feel dead, so I'd rather not continue to do that. And he didn't have any sort of resources for me. He didn't even have like a pamphlet he could give me, like what to do when ghosts are talking to you. There was nothing for me. And I remember telling him, okay, well, the fellowship hall is definitely filled with spirit. If you can do a blessing, I think that would help, because just to knock some of this energy down a few pegs. So he agreed, because I told him about what was happening with the kids. He agreed. And I remember leaving his office, and on the walls across the door from his, like you leave, and the hallway, the wall directly across from you, when you're standing in the doorway, there was a portrait of Jesus, a portrait of Mary. And I remember looking at the portrait of Jesus and just kind of going, I don't have any problems with you. Like, there's no hard, like I don't have any ill will. I'm not mad, but I got to find answers elsewhere. And I kind of felt like a very clean, like, yeah, almost a buddy Jesus moment of like, you're fine. So I felt a very clean, like, separation. And I looked at the portrait of Mary and kind of was like, this feels more accurate for me, divine feminine path. So that was kind of my start to it. My start was out of kind of just sheer frustration and being like, I don't even have resources to like help me cope. So then I started focusing specifically on learning about the gifts that I had. So that was mostly, I would call that more metaphysical study than spiritual study, but I mean, it kind of all gets wrapped up into one. Yeah, I did that a lot. Read a lot of books, watched a lot of documentaries. Not that there were that many, but I tried to find some. I read the really awful memoirs from people who supposedly could talk to the dead. And a lot of them I was like, yeah, no, that feels inaccurate, or that feels like bullshit. And I kind of just was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just keep searching. And I kept exploring. And the more I explored, the more I kept coming back to, the umbrella term I use is paganism, but those types of pathways in spirituality. And I just noticed that it was seen as something that wasn't to be afraid of. All of my studies when it came to paganism and communicating with spirit, you might see my dog. Oh, there he is. Say hi. Hello. All of the study that I did that brought me into, paganism kind of pathways, it treated what I could do as a gift and as a tool, not as something to be afraid of. And that was so empowering for me, and also really like a weight got lifted off my shoulders. It was in my chest, just like feeling like, oh wow, I'm not crazy, or I'm not seen as like a freak. I'm not a freak in these communities. I'm actually pretty normal, or even some, some form of, um, maybe not normal, but just kind of, um, respect. There was respect there with what you can do, and it was seen as something that was to be celebrated instead of something to worry about. Um, and that was a huge turning point. And that's when I went, cool, I identify with a lot of this. And then the more I did research on deities, the more I did research on, my family lineage, where we come from. In case you can't tell by my extremely pale complexion, we are very Irish. I actually had people kind of go, where are you from? And I'm like, really? The pale eyebrows and like almost translucent skin didn't give it away? Yeah, Ireland. What's up? um, yeah, so the more I did research on where I came from and my family and just all of these different things, I was like, yeah, this is definitely for me. And around the time I started college, so I would say around 18, 19, I got into tarot reading. And I didn't have a deck at first. I really was just researching like what it meant, because I would see stuff printed with like the Empress, or I would see tarot imagery on things, and I didn't really know. I felt drawn to it, but I didn't really know. So then I got my first deck, and the more I did readings, the more I was like, oh, this is my jam. This feels really good. And pretty much instantly, the deck that I picked up spoke to me, and it was like, cool, we're yours now, and we're gonna get used, and we're really excited about all this. So I just kept practicing. I would do tarot readings every day. I would research different ways to do tarot readings. At the end of the day, I ended up kind of feeling like, you can keep all these books next to you when you're doing a tarot reading to reference, but truly it's opening yourself up to being a channel and then going with what intuitively feels correct for the reading, along with like the proper spreads and making sure the person's asking the proper questions and that kind of thing. So that's how I got started with tarot reading. Then I started doing it more and more for friends, and slowly but surely, like, everybody was like, hey, like, this is like scary accurate. And that made me feel really good. And it was kind of like, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm good at reading tarot. I'm good at connecting with spirit. I'm good at giving messages. I'm good at this thing. And it was almost it was almost that scene in a lot of like 90s movies when the nerdy girl gets kind of a makeover, and then she comes back to school and everybody's like, oh my god, you were hot, even though she was like totally hot the whole time. That's how it kind of felt for me on a spiritual level, where almost my entire life I'd been made to feel weird, kind of uncomfortable about what I could do. I was told to be quiet about it. I was told to not discuss it. If I did discuss it, a lot of people were very uncomfortable, and I would get shunned, or I would just like get weird looks. So I learned very quickly, like, don't talk about it. And then when I started embracing it and I started using it and I started diving into, like, just leaning in more, that's when more people were like, oh my god, you're so good at this. And it's like, oh my god, I'm so good at this. So it kind of felt like my, like, glow up, my, like, spiritual glow up, just a little bit. It was nice. It was really nice. I then started reading, I don't want to say professionally, because that makes it sound like I do it 40 hours a week, but I would if I could. Like, if I had enough clients that I was doing tarot readings as like a full-time thing, that would kind of be awesome. I genuinely love it. It also gives me so much energy. A lot of people talk about how doing certain readings or doing certain works for people, magical works, drain them. It is the opposite for me. And I think it's because if you do it properly, you're connecting to source energy, you're connecting to source spirit, whatever you want to call it. So that's kind of like you're plugging back into a universal battery, and then you get to come out of it and you're like, oh my god, I have so much energy. So yeah, I actually feel extremely energized. So this is also to say, if you would like a tarot reading from me, please let me know, because I thoroughly enjoy them. And so far, I have yet to have a client complain. And I've been doing it as more of a professional thing not professionally, like 40 hours a week, but as a thing that I do consistently for money, I've yet to have a client complain or tell me that I was wrong. I've been doing that for, how old am I now? For like 5 years. So I feel like that's a pretty good track record. That's a damn good track record, in my opinion. Yeah, I love it. And it truly makes me feel so blessed. And it's become a tool, but also like I'm able to share with other people and connect with other people and connect them to source energy. So feeling like a conduit or a channel or whatever it is that you want to call me, a reader, having that connected feeling is one of the best sensations in the world. And I would never give it up. So I really, really enjoy it. And I'm glad it came back around to me. I'm glad I didn't stunt my spiritual growth just because I was afraid. So that's kind of my beginnings to paganism. In 2016, I started working with the Grove that I was a part of in Asheville to study a more intensive school of thought. How do I put this? Because it's not like it's school, but it's not school. I did priestess training, and I was ordained as a priestess in 2016, the end of 2016. So that was a really amazing experience as well. It also means that like I can lead ritual, I can hold circles for people. It really is a spiritual mantle that you take up. And I never really thought that that was something I needed to do, especially given how young I am. I mean, I don't feel young. In my head, I feel like I'm 1,000 years old. But given how young I was, I didn't really feel like that was something that I truly needed to do. And then when I kind of was being like, no, that's not my thing, I truly got a lot of messages that was like, hey, you better start doing this thing. I just went, okay, I guess I'm gonna go do the thing. So I got on my own way and I did it, and it was worth it. I studied with a friend of mine and our mentor leader, and it was an amazing experience. And yeah, it was just another step in the process. So I went from being the weirdo, I went from being the emotionally and spiritually stunted preteen teenager who was trying her absolute hardest to never talk about the things that she can do, all the way to a tarot reader, pagan priestess who loves her spirituality, loves her work, loves connecting with clients and people, and going to holding workshops, teaching stuff, discussing. My pantheon is mostly yes, it's pagan, but it's mostly Irish and Celtic deities. So I talk a lot about Irish and Celtic deities and teach about them when I have the opportunity to lead workshops, all that kind of thing. And it's really amazing. And I genuinely love it. And it makes me so happy. And the more I do it, the happier I am. So it's kind of like seeing how far I came in 13 years, 14 years, something like that. Yeah. Like that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot in terms of time, but it's also like that arch just was so big. And also very like, as soon as I made the decision to kind of be like, yeah, I don't have a problem with Jesus, but like I don't think he's my homeboy. As soon as I made that decision, stuff just started falling into place and kind of the path started to unfold in front of me. And that was a really enlightening and humbling experience to know that you just have to make a decision and you just have to be brave enough to take that step, because it was really scary. And to be a teenager basically being like, I'm gonna try to find out information about this thing even though nobody knows. It was a lot. So basically I'm just proud of past me, proud of current me too, but mostly I'm proud of 14-year-old Lauren, who was like, yeah, no, we're gonna do this thing. But anyway, that's kind of the boiled down version of how I became a pagan. I do use the term pagan. I don't use the term Wiccan. I am not Wiccan. I didn't study under any Wiccan priestesses. I was not initiated. So, and I don't have a spiritual lineage that way. So I'm not Wiccan. I know that there's some confusion about that, and that's totally fine. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me or comment on the video. It's totally fine. Questions and comments are welcome. So don't worry. And you're not gonna be an idiot for asking. Like, I think sometimes people get a little nervous about asking stuff about spirituality, especially my stuff, because they're like, I don't want to seem like an idiot. I'm like, everybody has to start somewhere, and there are no stupid questions. As long as you're being respectful, there's no stupid questions. So don't worry about that. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, I mean, I hope you don't have concerns, but if you do, you can still message me. Yeah. So, but I'm pagan. I use that term because it feels the most encompassing. It doesn't feel strict. I don't like strict labels, which you will find out more about, but I don't like strict labels. So I use as broad a term as I can. Also, paganism can mean so many things to so many other people, and I feel like it's just easier to be a welcoming influence if you don't already put yourself in a box. But that's just me. If you identify as Wiccan, go for it. And more power to you. That's totally fine. But I literally am not, because I didn't study under any Wiccan, I didn't do any of that initiation. So, and that's very important. So, yeah, no, I'm not. But I like my pagan title. I like my priestess title. I like my tarot reading title. Pretty happy with those. So anyway, that was my journey. That's at least the boiled down version of it. I didn't take notes for myself because it's my story and I didn't really feel like I needed to take notes. So, but anyway, also, if you guys are watching these videos and you're enjoying them, please sign up for my Patreon page. I'm really excited about all the content that I'm bringing to you guys on that, so please join if you're able. You can donate for as little as $2, and that's gonna keep stuff running. It's gonna keep these videos coming to you guys. It's gonna keep my website up, and it's gonna keep me in coffee, and that's kind of important for a series called Coffee with Lauren. Just gotta have coffee. But anyway, if you feel led, please donate. Also, you can find me on Instagram at willwriteforcoffee. I'm also on Twitter, Lauren P_Devora. Just find me everywhere, and there will be links in the thingy for all of these things, so you don't have to listen to me talk at you about them. So I will post links, but please come find me on social media and on Patreon. And I hope you have a really amazing day. And if you have any questions, would like to book a tarot session with me, please feel free to reach out. And I hope you guys have a really wonderful day. Bye!